There are two new snapshots available for the next Minecraft version, Chaos Cubed 26.2, introducing the Sulfur Cube mob, the Sulfur and Cinnabar block sets, and the Sulfur Caves biome, and support for rendering using the Vulkan graphics API. My name is Slime, and I apologize for this video being late. I have been away traveling. Let's dive in. The Sulfur Cube is a new passive mob that spawns in sulfur caves like a hostile mob. That is, it belongs to the hostile mob's mob cap and competes with hostile mobs for spawning space, and it despawns when no player is near. They have 8 health, which is 4 hearts, and are slime-like in that they move by jumping around and split into 2 small mobs when killed. They have no loot drops. Those small mobs act like babies in that they grow up over time and can be tempted by and fed slime balls, which reduces their growing time. The large mobs have an interaction with players. When interacting with them while holding a supported block, the Sulfur Cube will absorb that block, which turns off its normal mob AI and turns it into a physics object of sorts. You can think of it more like a ball than a mob. The physics properties of that ball depend on the block inside, according to one of 9 different archetypes, which we'll walk through in a little bit. When a Sulfur Cube has absorbed the block, it becomes invulnerable to many types of damage, but can still take damage from some things, notably fire damage, cramming, and damage from the boss mobs. If it is killed while it has a block inside, it will drop that block. Interacting with a Sulfur Cube that has a block inside while holding another supported block will cause it to swap blocks with the old one popping out. And the old one can also be popped out to reset the mob by interacting with shears. When a large Sulfur Cube is empty, it can be tempted by holding a supported block type. There are 2 other ways a Sulfur Cube can absorb a block. If a large, empty Sulfur Cube is near an item entity with a supported block, it can vacuum that block up and absorb it. Another possibility is for dispensers to place blocks into Sulfur Cubes or remove them with shears. And a final interaction. A large Sulfur Cube can be picked up and placed back down using a bucket. This works on both empty cubes and ones with blocks inside, but only on the large ones. Dispensers can also place down Sulfur Cubes from buckets, but cannot pick them up. So what about those archetypes? The regular archetype is applied when a Sulfur Cube absorbs many stone, brick, and dirt-like blocks. This gives middle-of-the-road properties for speed, bounciness, and ground friction with low air drag, and it also floats in water. The bouncy archetype is applied when a Sulfur Cube absorbs many log or plank-like blocks and applies fast speed, high bounciness, medium ground friction, and low air drag. It also floats. The light archetype is applied when a Sulfur Cube absorbs a wool block and makes it slow with high bounciness, medium ground friction, and high air drag. Once again, floating. For all other archetypes, Sulfur Cubes sink when in water. The slow flat archetype is applied when a Sulfur Cube absorbs many metal blocks. It applies slow speed, low bounciness, and medium ground friction and air drag. The fast flat archetype is similar but with faster speed and lower air drag and is applied when a Sulfur Cube absorbs many organic blocks. The slow sliding archetype is triggered by shroom-like blocks and sets slow speed, no bounciness at all, low ground friction, and low air drag. The fast sliding archetype is from packed and blue ice as well as snow blocks and is the same but with faster speed. The high resistance archetype is applied when a Sulfur Cube absorbs a soul sand or soul soil block, making them very slow and with high friction, low air drag, and bounciness. And finally, the sticky archetype is applied when a Sulfur Cube absorbs a honeycomb, and works like the bouncy archetype but with very high ground friction and no bounce at all, to simulate the cube sticking to the ground. Of course, the Sulfur Cube also comes with its own spawn egg. Let's move on to new blocks and items. This version introduces 2 new block sets, Sulfur and Cinnabar. Both have polished versions and brick versions, and slab, stair, and wall versions of all of those. Both also have a chiseled block version, with the chiseled Cinnabar sporting a spider pattern, and the chiseled Sulfur showing a Sulfur Cube pattern. Both of these materials are stone-like and can be processed on a stone cutter. Another new block type is the Potent Sulfur. In addition to being found in sulfur pools, it can be crafted by placing sulfur in a 3x3 pattern. It can also be uncrafted, but this is a lossy process, giving only 4 sulfur blocks back. When a potent sulfur block is placed in water with water sources up to 4 blocks above it, it will produce bubbles that rise up and generate a cloud of nauseating gas on the surface. That cloud spreads with a maximum radius of 3 blocks. When an entity enters that cloud, they get the nausea effect, which currently only has an actual effect on players. Related to all of this is the new biome, the Sulfur Caves. They are a new cave biome that generates underground at various heights, including inside hills and mountains. Similar to the azalea tree that generates above lush caves, sulfur springs can generate above sulfur caves. They come in 4 different sizes and generate with a trail of sulfur blocks leading down to the cave biome. The sulfur caves generate with bands of sulfur and cinnabar and with sulfur pools that can also contain potent sulfur. The water color is turquoise in sulfur caves, and if it can be seen there, the sky is similar to in plains biomes, as are tinted blocks like grass. The regular hostile mobs spawn in sulfur caves with one exception. Instead of spiders, sulfur caves spawn cave spiders. They also spawn the new sulfur cubes. Visiting a sulfur cave is now also required for gaining the adventuring time advancement. And with that, let's move on from all the sulfur and instead talk about the volcanoes. No, sorry, I mean Vulkan. This version is the first that supports rendering the game using the Vulkan rendering API. This is controlled by a new option called Graphics API, which has 3 settings: Default, Prefer Vulkan, or Prefer OpenGL. Default currently implies Prefer Vulkan, but this may change in the future. Vulkan is newer than OpenGL, and support for it is new, so may introduce problems, but it might also provide better performance. To see which rendering backend is actually used, you can switch on the System Specs F3 section. And speaking of that, this version also comes with a new splash text, now on Vulkan 1.2. There's another change to the F3 menu as well. The ambient and axolotl mobcap numbers now have names that can be distinguished rather than both being listed as simply A. There are also visual fixes in this version, including for the dragon death animation covering up parts of players or their armor. The underwater fog now works properly for low render distances. And the block light transition from level 0 to 1 is now actually smooth under the night sky with the smooth lighting setting turned on. Some other gameplay changes in this version. The way entities bounce on slime blocks and beds has been tweaked in this version, which means you may note slight differences. A bug with the spectator mode teleport functionality has been fixed, so you can no longer teleport to a player who has switched to spectator mode after the hotbar opened. Some mob bugs have also been fixed, including bees working more slowly when a campfire is placed under their nest or hive. And the baby hoglins and zoglins now have the correct mirroring on their left ears. Dolphins now dismount minecarts when passing over activator rails. And speaking of dolphins, Snapshot 2 included a fix for them still sometimes drowning when no players are near them. Otherwise, Snapshot 2 mostly contains stability fixes related to the Vulkan rendering. And that's all for this time. If you're also interested in the changes to data and resource pack versions, check out my Pack News channel for a separate video. Eventually. Thank you for watching all the way to the end, it does help out in the YouTube algorithm. If you want to help out even more, please print out flyers and hand them to all your friends. Or just click the like button, you know? My name is Sly Slime, and I'll see you next time.